Alrighty, welcome to Pass the Mic for Friday, June 30th, 2023, episode 76. We are on Zoom. Michael Pihoty here. Joining me, Mr. Michael Gervasi.
So this is going to be a retirement of sorts.
Uh-oh,
I'm putting to bed the rap lyrics.
the hip-hop intro.
Yeah, I think it's time. I think it's had its day. It's getting a little awkward. And I just went to the doctor as I was driving back, Mike. I almost it was like almost a godsend. A song came on, "What's My Name" by DMX. To me, it's his best song, and I'm like, maybe it's not time to retire it. But that's almost to me like Michael Jordan coming back with the Wizards.
Yeah, it's just too much.
Just too much. So I am retiring. If you're in your mind right now, you want to play a song. Maybe "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday" by Boys to Men.
Boys to Men. We don't want to get a copyright flag. Maybe I need to start coming up with like 90s pop songs for the next year, and then you try to guess what those are.
That would be fun.
Start with like NSYNC or Vanilla Ice or.
Okay, I'm in. But bye to the rap.
There we go. We tied in a little in sync.
Yeah.
Well, what a way to start. We'll start again like we normally do, though, with feedback and errors. We got a lot of feedback on the TV dads,
Yeah.
TV and movie dad, all over
Mhm.
the place. When we mentioned Jerry Stiller last week, we forgot to. He's actually double TV dad because in King of Queens he went on after Seinfeld to be the father-in-law, right? Like he
Yes.
was the father-in-law that played a. He was more of a regular in that show than a
Yes, he was.
guest star.
Yeah, for sure. Lived in the basement.
Yep. Max Bailey brought up his top whatever was James Evans Sr. from Good Times, John Amos, who I did a little, then that got me into like, like I always do, I look these guys up. So he was only 34 at the time when he was filming that. And his younger son, JJ Dynamite, he was only 8 years older than in real life.
Yeah,
But
that's
he sort of
crazy.
had the look of a middle-aged
He did.
uh, guy. And he really, I think about his character. I think about him like, and again, this is still an old movie compared to modern times. He never looked any different than he did in the 70s TV shows to when he was in Die Hard 2, when he was like the secret villain. Do you remember did you ever see Die Hard 2?
I did. I
Remember
did.
he was the group leader of that military group
Hmm.
that was actually on the bad guy's side.
And that was the 90s, correct?
Yeah, so that's like 20 years later, or
Yeah.
15 years later, and then you see him. He was also in what's it called, the movie with Eddie Murphy,
Coming to America.
Coming to America,
He
great
was
role in it.
brilliant in that movie, man. He
But
was.
he's looked the same. And then like there's sad news out now that like he's being as a senior being abused by his family, but I guess he's come out and said otherwise, like his own kids, like some crazy stuff. But that was a great TV dad that we mentioned. And then of course we dropped the ball on our. I think he's one of our original three Mikes, Michael Keaton and Mr. Mom.
That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
I
How we
think that was Jill Berg, I think, who texted that. I think I may be wrong.
She also she mentioned Little House on the Prairie Dad. To Michael
Yep.
Landon.
Michael Landon. Yes. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Chris Pate brought up, and man, I don't think I mentioned this last week. Rock, the show Rock, a much less heralded show. Man, that show was brilliant though, and I actually showed that one to kind of coincide with the Cosby Show as sort of African American comedies. And man, Rock was a phenomenal show. Really did not last long enough. It was they tackled hard hitting issues. They did it in a comedic way. They were such a good show. So I really appreciated that one from Chris because it was a really good show. Deontay reached out to me about Cosby and said he understands the point of view that the kids and I had about him. He's able to separate the two.
Okay.
I also wanted to, Tony Saavedra, we both agree, nicest guy on the planet. He jumped in last week on the comedians and agreed with me about Eddie Murphy. So,
Yep, that was another one. Hey, and then speaking of Tony, Tony
yeah,
Maselli, isn't it? Didn't Max find out, or you looked it up? Maselli's Marauders was his softball team.
that was Max. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to have Dr. Rice make some Maselli's Marauders T-shirts to go along with our
can't violate
Carlson gear.
copyright laws though.
Well, I don't know who we violating. Who's the boss? Is this? Has it? It's not in the public domain yet. We can get a
That's a
picture of Tony's face and Maselli's Marauders. Maybe if
valid
we
point.
put
Valid point.
maybe that will be the name of our staff basketball team at the staff for basketball. Maybe we
That
can
was good.
invite them. Maybe we can invite Tony Danza to come be like a special guest coach or something.
No, he became a teacher, didn't he?
In real, yeah, that was
Real
that.
life.
Yeah, he became a teacher. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he's looking for a job.
Are we hiring?
I don't know. I have to check it out. Okay, time for my mic of the week. And so the last couple days, I've been going through Apple Music. I'm creating a new playlist for my trip. I like to, I just, to me, I don't know how you consume music. I like to go and like when I have time to make these, and these playlists are all over the place. Like there is no rhyme or reason. Okay, there's could be country songs, 80s pop, 90s, 70s, modern stuff. I just whatever I want to hear, and then I hit shuffle and I go on my walk. So I'm creating my vacation playlist, and so I'm like, I'm going to go with a musician this time. That's what I want to go with, a musician. So we have some, we have what do we have? Like Michael McDonald's up there, I think already. Michael Stipe, REM.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some, and I'm
Killer
like looking
Mike.
around.
Killer
What's
Mike
that?
rapper.
Killer
Killer
Mike,
Mike
yeah. And
rapper.
so so I'm like, so I found one that's a little bit of a clause. So it's not an exact, so we might get some hate, but William Michael Albert Broad. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
From London, England. You may better know him as Billy Idol. But
Oh,
yes, yes, I looked all over the world for every type of girl. There we go, a little Billy Idol for you, Max Bailey.
wow. That's a pretty good
Dancing with
impression too.
myself. I think I like that. Billy. He's another one of those guys. I'm looking at like a modern picture. He's a little older.
Yeah,
He still has like the spiky, receded blonde hairline. But I mean, he lived off the MTV era. Man,
he
he was one
was.
of those guys that was made by MTV because otherwise he was just like this British pop guy. But MTV is what really made him. So we're
Do you
gonna add him.
remember
I
him
think
in not Billy Madison? What was the Adam Sandler movie? Man, it's from
was
like
he in what? Was he in?
Drew
He
Barrymore, Wedding
the
Singer. Wedding
Wedding
Singer.
Singer. Okay.
Yeah, made a little
Yeah.
cameo
Yes.
in
Yeah.
that
Yep. Yep. He's so I think he's a good addition. We'll take him as a Michael.
for
William
sure.
Michael Albert Broad, Billy Idol, 67 years old, still rocking and doing well. So,
Wow.
yep. All right. I figured this week, education, since we're resting and relaxing, it's going to be time to think of some of our coworkers and colleagues. And we talk about, we oftentimes I'm the butt of many jokes about how my job might be considered a little easier than some others in the industry.
No.
But I thought we'd talk about who we feel has the most difficult job or jobs, if you want to do multiple people, that we work with. I think, even before I lost touch with the classroom, I felt teaching high school, I felt there were more difficult jobs in the district than mine. Even when I was, teaching 10th grade English at the most difficult portion of that. So, and, obviously we don't think it's outrageously difficult. We both still come to work every day. We like coming to work. We've talked about that, but we know there's other jobs that we're sort of like, holy cow, we've already given props to many of our other coworkers. So when it comes down to it, I'll let you have, do you only have one?
I have two.
I have two. Okay, let's do a two limit because that's what I have two. I have two as well. Who do you think is your most difficult jobs in education?
So I'm going to start with the one that requires a little more thought in a sense that I apply. Okay, so I coached eighth grade basketball for probably 9 years, and I have been teaching 20 plus. I got more calls about eighth grade basketball than I did for
Your whole teaching career.
teaching. And so I'm going to apply that to what I think and what I know the varsity football coach goes through. If I get more calls as an eighth grade basketball coach, which is a 6-week season, 7-week season, the varsity football coach of a program is awful in terms of the amount of scrutiny you are under. I think because people are very good at playing various video game systems that they might be able to dominate even on the Heisman level. They think that applies to coaching football. I sat in the stands for one game last year briefly. And admittedly, it was a big game. The emotions were high, but listening to the parents just vent toward what was going on with the coaching staff was a lot. So I'm going to say first and foremost, a varsity football coach. I have too thin a skin to deal with that. The amount of effort and work they put in, I think is remarkable. So I'm saying that's number one.
Do you want to go 1-1 each?
Yeah,
Or do you
let's
want
go
to keep
1-1. That's
okay?
fine.
I want to also comment on that. First of all, it's not a huge paying job. You don't
Right.
get any extra time off. It's a little more added money at the. I mean, if you ever figured it out hourly, it would be insulting.
Sure.
And and again, I've said this as a coach of track, cross country, I, football is where it's at. Anyone that's going to tell you, and this is no offense to any other sport, but
Right.
there's no other sport that if you go on a Friday, those aren't just all the parents of the kids playing.
No.
Okay. It literally brings in people that don't have a vested interest other than Gibraltar being their hometown. You know what I mean? So it's the one sporting event that's on the showcase for everyone to see. It's the crowd. We're over the years here at Carlson, we're very, we have a good community that supports it. The kids go to it. So there's a lot of pressure. I mean, if again, I'm not trying to downplay any other sport. My kid doesn't even play football, but I acknowledge what the bread and butter is of high school athletics in this state. And probably it's the same. We talk about it. It's really that same way for everywhere in the country and every college, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the main sport? It's college football.
Right.
It's the NFL. Like, we're not breaking, we're not, giving breaking news here. I totally agree with you. I'm going to go with my first one. And so a CI teacher, cognitively impaired teachers. This is not just regular special ed. Not that there's anything that's making it, but cognitive impaired. We're talking about students that have some born with disabilities
Sure.
that still are able to come to public schools. And Gibraltar does a great program with it all the way through the elementaries, the middle school, and high school. Like we said, we've talked about Alex Ames and what Evie has done with our basketball team with
And
the
Patrick Rice, the unified team.
Yes, Patrick, unified team. But I think, again, I'm putting all levels in there, but especially elementary cognitively impaired, because I always have tons of respect for elementary anyway. Regular ed, specials, anything. Cognitively impaired elementary teachers, the patience that these colleagues of ours must have. And you have, they always talk about, teaching, you're born with it. These people are really born with something,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine the patience they have to do this job. To me, I would be exhausted every day. I'm sure it's a very fulfilling job, and I just want to give credit to those people, because I don't know what could be a more difficult job than that. Trying to do your best to acquaint these children to a public school setting, trying to make them feel as involved as everybody else. And also the teaching aspect is just even much more difficult. So those people deserve a big shout out in my book. And I definitely one of the most difficult jobs.
Yeah. It's funny when my given day, the kids kind of mock me for this. And one of our esteemed coaches, Kelly Warren, does a good impression of me. When kids gather around my desk, I lose my patience,
Mm-hmm.
and that's nothing. That's kids needing something. And I just have four
Yes.
kids, and it just like, I kind of go crazy. So what they have to deal with on a daily basis, you're right. I also, I don't want to forget this, because Patrick Rice and Evie were the two that coached unified team, but they also had help, Alex Ames, who you mentioned, and also Anna Blakesley. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Yes. Yeah. No, because that was a great program. And I think they're looking at expanding it to other sports too. I noticed that track meets, Wyandotte and Woodhaven had their
Yeah.
unified teams running races, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
No pressure I'm not trying to add work to anyone's schedule, by the way.
No, and I just wanted to make sure to give shout outs to the people.
Yeah. Yep.
Involved. My second one, you know what? It's a little more obvious. Look, it's, to be clear here, everybody's kind of under a certain amount of pressure, but I was able to see this with a local district and a cell tower issue. How these things are handled can sometimes be very challenging. The superintendent, though, the amount of scrutiny, it's kind of like the football coach. Every decision you make is going to be scrutinized by people that feel like they could do better. And, again, principals have the same thing. Sometimes teachers do. So it doesn't minimize that, but I really could not imagine having in a position where literally every single decision you make is going to be criticized by somebody. And I think that superintendents get that. They get it from the community. They get it from everybody underneath them. So, I'm going to say that is also right up there in a parallel with the football coach, where you make a decision, you're going to be pissing off X number of people every time you make said decision. So,
and a great thing to add to that job, they literally have a meeting once a month. That, imagine your job had a meeting once a month that people could come up to and talk for 3 to 5 minutes and blast you.
Right.
And there's nothing stopping it. Like that.
And
That's
you think
part of what your
about,
job is.
just think about even snow days. When they make those decisions, you'll see if they make the decision to come to school, you get the criticism, oh, look at the roads. And when they make the decision to shut it down, Facebook is just, or social media in general is just loaded with comments. Why are they off today? Oh, it's like, you can't
And
win.
I think, and here's what they do now, and you're going to have more of the, we've talked about this before in our snow day episodes. Whereas in the early part of our career, pre-COVID and stuff, it was always called like that. You'd get a call like 5:30 in the morning. Like they'd always wait. But now I think, which when you think about it, that's pretty lousy for like a working family.
Yeah.
Like especially now in this day, and like, oh, we're going to make this call at 5:30 on the day that you have to go into work. So I think people are more accepting this now, and they got to put the whole idea out of their head of what the weather turns out to be like.
Right.
Because now we're making this call the evening or afternoon before, and we're doing this knowing that, okay, stuff could change in the next 8 to 10 hours that make us look like, okay, this wasn't that bad, but we're also giving you notice. So I think that sort of, oh, this isn't that bad. That whole argument needs to be shot out, because now they're doing this pre notification, which I think is more important, especially for working families or people that don't have childcare and they still have to go to work. I think so. That one, hopefully that disappears. That's my getting on the soapbox for superintendents. All right. I'm right with you though with admin, but mine is, I've said this before on episodes, and I think back to my days. Thankfully I don't have to ride a school bus anymore because I coaches. We drive and we sign off when we get there. But back in my early coaching career, it would always be a riding the bus. And that was with high school athletes. Towards the end, I rode the middle school bus a few times back, but now we just drive. But sweet Lord, bus drivers. I mean, first of all, driving itself, a vehicle that large, and I drove a 24-foot stake truck. The act of just driving that truck or driving a vehicle that large on your own, not having anything distracting you other than the road, is a chore in itself. You're driving a much larger vehicle. Yes, it's huge and bright yellow, but in this day and age of drivers being distracted, people making bad decisions on the road, weather, this or that. But not only that, I'm now driving this vehicle with numerous bodies behind me that I'm not only responsible for transporting them, I'm responsible for overseeing their behavior and making sure that, they're not doing anything. Imagine if your classroom was a vehicle that you were driving the whole time, so you actually had to move it, but also make sure that nobody was doing anything that is inappropriate. Our bus drivers do a great job. I'm always praising them, and they're very friendly people. I talk to them all the time when I sign the form, or it seems like when I'm walking my dog on days that if the buses are still rolling or I get home early enough and I'm walking, they always wave. And it's a tough job to fill, just because I think it's just a tough job to do. But I think one thing that's probably made it a little easier nowadays, as I imagine a lot of these kids get on the bus and they just go right into their phones, especially in the buildings where they're not allowed to have them, right? So where the previous ride, it was a boring ride, you had nothing to do. I guess that's one good thing with phones, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm sure it probably about that. Yeah.
But a tough job, and those people, what a tough job. Just like I said, I think it's a tough job just driving the bus. Not if I had an empty bus, it's a tough job. Now you have 30 middle school kids. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No,
I don't think I could last. There's no way I could do that job. So that's why it goes into my difficult one.
You lose your patience in the library sometimes. So I think.
And I don't think they'd allow me to put headphones on. It's not like the bus driver from The Simpsons. He has a pair of headphones on.
That wouldn't work.
I don't think that would fly. I'd be people would be at the board meeting complaining. We'd love to hear what other people think. I think your football coach is a great one. I just imagine you're doing something, giving up most of your summer. Once August hits, your summer's over. And then you're right. Like when you mentioned it, I think in the last episode, was when we can finally close the windows in the press box and not have to hear the John Maddens and Pat Summeralls in the stand. That rest in peace to both of those guys. All right, overrated, underrated. We both hit up a grad party this past weekend. We were there together. Jeff Simon's middle child graduated, right?
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Which was a very nice party. Those storms rolled in. I think I saw on a Facebook post they were able to get everything in on Sunday. I also went to Kylie Owasco's that day. So we figured overrated, underrated graduation parties. What do you got for us on your overrated?
Yeah, we discussed this a little bit. It's the food.
Not that the food's bad.
No, you have to worry about so many things with so many people. It's so expensive. Jeff did a wonderful job. He got the pit master. Man, I was so excited. And then I get there and it was all pork stuff. I don't eat pork products. So you just have to worry about everybody. You end up spending so much. And they really did a wonderful job in all aspects. But I'm going to go with the food just for a variety of reasons. One of which being just the concern that you're having to worry about everybody there. And I know I have, I get made fun of the fun sucker of food, so to speak. But I'm going to go with foods on this one.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you, and I love to eat. And I speaking, and again, the food, I ate the pork. I just limit my meat per day. I don't limit what type of meat. It was delicious. I haven't had the pitmaster in a while, and my son Nate was so super excited because that used to be, he's only catering now, but he used to have a place up in the gas station
Oh
in
yeah.
Horn and Fort, and we used to get it as a carryout, and now he just does catering. Um, the, Going through as I went through this last year, and again, both parties I went to did an excellent job. Miss Iwasco stopped me. I know we've talked about the Bobby Brown TikToks. She's like, "Are you going to do a food review on my graduation party?" And she had a excellent Mexican spread that was delicious. And I said, "No, I'm not doing these at all for graduation parties because I don't want to offend anybody. Like, because I don't want to, I'm not,
Right.
there's no way I'd be able to give somebody like a 4, even if it was, I'm not doing that. Both foods this weekend were excellent. They were very good. I can tell you as someone that went through this last year, it's a very difficult thing to do, even with a count, even with an RSVP. And we did, we had it. It's just a hard type of meal to feed because you really don't have an accurate count because in this era of Facebook invites, and then I'm just prepping you for all this because then like I know the fights we had in our house because like my wife thought she had a count, but then Chloe's like, oh, I told all these people and these people. So then we're the type of people that how I roll. I don't want there to be not enough food. We ended up having so much extra food when this was all said and done that like we ended up thankfully giving away a lot to people, but it's just a hard thing to plan and
Sure.
do. It's a hard thing, and and like I said, both of these parties were great. I just, if you haven't had to put one on yet, it's a lot of work. And we're not saying overrated is bad here, right? We're
No.
saying that it's just a hard part of the element of doing it. You know what I mean? It's like you could even have them, and whenever I'm at these parties too, if you're putting the party on, you either need some help or you have to hire somebody. That's literally the people changing the pans. You can't, as a parent, you wouldn't be able to interact and enjoy the party, And I sort of told Elise at Chloe's that I was going to do that job. I didn't mind because I wasn't just going to sit there and pound Coors Lights or Miller Lights. I didn't. I actually only had like one that day, but and I do it at our work parties, right? Like I watch a thing and I fill it up. I have no problem doing that,
Mhm.
but you need somebody. It's just a lot of work. So I'm right with you. It'd be nice if we got into this era, like the grad party was just like pop in and have like a cookie and a Miller Light and pop out, but I'm not in charge. So, all right, what is your underrated?
So, there was a few things that came to my mind, but you reminded me of this, the underrated now. I think this is catching on because people do talk about this. Your Irish goodbye. You did a great job of that at Jeff's. You did a great job of it at a previous party we were at. And I went to two the same day like you did. And I told Kristen, we're getting out, no goodbyes. Well, we got stopped and it wasn't even, she didn't even say bye to all the people she wanted to, and it still took way too long. That darn goodbye, man, so the Irish goodbye is wonderful. That's my underrated.
Listen, at the Simon's party, I didn't really get to talk to his son that graduated, but and in fairness, I really didn't know him as well as the older
Right.
boy and the younger, because like I just didn't, because like Nate competes against the younger one. Um, I saw Jeff. I talked to him for a while, but I could see, I don't like. Even then, like I don't. He came to us. I didn't want to bother him when he was talking. He said, "Why didn't you come
Sure.
say anything?" He was talking to people. And then like Nate looked at me, and we knew we had to get to Kylie's party in Wyandotte, which is, we, by the way, paid for the toll bridge instead of driving all the way back to the free bridge. A
Yeah.
convenience. Little capitalism plug there. And capitalism over socialism on Sunday, right? I took the private equity bridge, and I looked at Nate's like, let's get going. And I looked around and like the son was already engaged with other people. Jeff, I'm like, we just walked out. Like
Yeah.
we just left. And I didn't at Kylie's because like I went and said goodbye because I didn't even get to talk to her dad at all. So I made sure to say goodbye, and Kylie was right there with us. So I totally agree. Annie Hayjack tagged me in a Facebook, Instagram post that says that Irish goodbye is end up adding 2 days, I think, onto your life by doing that.
Really?
Yes, 2 extra. So that's another benefit. Yes,
Absolutely.
you've
And the
wasted less
problem is
time.
too, if you say bye to one person, inevitably it's a domino thing. The dominoes fall, and you have to say bye to everybody else that's around that person.
This is being repeated, but I think it works perfectly with
Yes.
graduation parties. Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's what it was. I think it was 2 days you gained to your life of wasting time waiting around to say goodbye to people. So my underrated is I always, no matter how little or long I'm staying at a party, I always go look at the photo boards, the brag boards. I love that's my favorite part of a graduation party. At Kylie's, they had some cute pictures on every table from all various grades. I like this. I've seen that some people they like line the driveway with like kindergarten picture, first grade picture,
Yeah.
second grade picture. I think that's really cool. I just those sort of things that Chloe did a great job working on her photo boards. There's friends boards, there's activities boards, there's the future college boards. I don't think Nate's going to do much. We're already dreading like there might be like one board. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a picture from his eighth grade basketball.
There you go.
He's just not as creative on that stuff. But those are my favorite parts. I always make it a point, no matter how long or short I'm staying at a party, to go look at the photo boards and the brag boards of all the accomplishments the kids have. Kylie also had like every one of her cross country bibs, the numbers from all the races. Because then I looked over at my son. I'm like, "Do you have any of your bibs?" Say, this is something a girl would definitely do.
Yeah, right, right.
But he claims he does. He has them had some at some point. But I just thought it was a real cool touch to have there. So that's my underrated. I really like. I do because I know people put a lot of time into those, and I know not every guest goes and looks. I'm telling you, if I'm at the party, you have a better chance of me going to look at your brag board than saying goodbye.
Yeah.
That's a fact. So,
Yeah.
all right, what do you have as your hot mic take for the week? We're already into June. End of June.
Yeah. So as June comes around, I need your opinion on this and the listener. So I picked up tennis about 3 years ago, losing one summer. So I'm about 2 years into playing, and I really enjoy it. But I lose a lot because I play people who've played and are better than me. So Kelly Warren, I've beaten him once. A couple other guys I play with, I lose to them generally because they played a lot longer. So I want to know what you think about this. So I played yesterday. A good friend of mine, Jesse, he won the first game. It was very close. I won the second one. So you got to play the third, right? He
Yes,
couldn't do
best of
it.
three. Oh, so you
So
won.
I'm asking, is that a win for me? Because he couldn't.
Yes, but he conceded in
No,
my book. Yes,
he just said, well, we'll have to.
surrendered. He surrendered.
He had to pick up his kids.
Oh, so it wasn't a physical surrender. It was a
Yeah,
time
I'm
surrender.
sorry, it wasn't a surrender. I got to explain it. He had to go pick up his
Okay.
kids. He said, I don't have time to play. And to me, if you play a different day, that's now it doesn't.
No. Who won the second match?
I did.
Oh yeah, you had the momentum.
Yeah. First one was 6-4, 4-6 in favor of him. Second one 6-4 in favor of me. So everything was pretty similar.
Couldn't you have done just like a sudden death, like one?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, but sudden death isn't. I mean, I guess if it's a regular season.
I don't know. I'm not as much as my uncle was a all-world Hall of Fame tennis coach at Whithaven High School. I don't know the rules that much. I don't know what we could have put in there. That's what you did in summer league basketball. But who would get to serve? That's the thing. I think that then you get to the problem of it's sudden death, but each person should get to serve too.
Right. I don't know. So I'm just wondering, is this a win for me?
Well, do we have Rocky Georgie back on the payroll? Are we able to ask him a question? Can you give us?
I think anybody can answer this, though. I think this is one.
I could ask my uncle, or we can go to Rocky. Those are
no, but I think it's a quandary that I think even if you're not a tennis person or any type of sports person, I think this is a philosophical question that I think
I'm pulling back my initial statement that you won because the time I thought it was a physical resignation.
No,
and it was a time.
You had to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think on that. I'm not going to give my ruling yet.
Okay.
I'm going to think on that. We'd love to hear what our listeners think, and maybe my uncle Tim Coleman or Rocky Georgie can give us a rules interpretation as well.
Okay, perfect.
So, my hot mic take, I sort of told you this story a little bit, but I'm going to tie it into what my hot mic take is. We sort of talked already how COVID brought about some good things to the world, right? Like people are cleaner, appointments, which are now going back away. I guess this is almost turning into things that I missed about COVID. The called in for your appointment, like you just sit in your car, that's sort of gone now, right? Like nobody's doing that anymore. But I like that. I really would rather just sit in my car, and I guess you could do that and walk, but no, you're not really, because you still got to wait for whatever you're going for. I sort of had this interaction this last weekend at Kroger, or this last week at Kroger. I was shopping, and there's an elderly gentleman in front of me. who was struggling, and he was had a walker and it was somehow wedged and stuck in his basket. So I helped him with that because I could see that, and this thing was in there, man. I don't. It was just one of those weird things where you drop something to set it, and he sort of got it in through one wedge and then into another hole. You know what I mean? Like, and it was a straight firm cane. I don't know. It was like a once in a lifetime wedge, and so I had to get on my hands and knees to get this thing out for this guy, and I did. And again, not totally not a problem. Well, then I noticed as he was wrapping up, because nobody has baggers anymore, right? The cashiers were bagging. I noticed that he had, at the very end of his thing, he had like a 12 pack of pop of some sort, but all of his light stuff was already in one of those small half carts. There was going to be nowhere to put this thing, because the pop was last and would crush everything. So I'm like, I left my cart back in the line, and preface this by saying the person behind me already before all this started was already too close to me. And this is what I'm going back with. Remember the COVID era when you gave the people
Yes. Right.
social distancing?
Right.
Like I love, because I always hated pre-COVID when people were right up on my
Yeah.
heels in the line. Like, what are you doing? It's like the people that want to get off an airplane. Like, we're gonna get there. Don't
Yes.
worry. And this person, this lady in a rascal, was right up on me when this whole thing started. Okay. Well, when this guy's having the problem at the end of the line, I go, you know what? I go, listen, he had this big thing of toilet paper. I go, let's lift this stuff up. And that way you can put the heavy thing on. He was not going to be able to do this all himself. There was no doubt. And so he's like, oh, thanks. So I lift it up. He puts the pop. I'm looking back. My cart's moving down the line. And I'm like, how the hell is my cart moving? Because this lady's in a rascal, George Costanza style. I'm surprised she's not honking the horn on it, pushing my cart forward, because heaven forbid I have to wait a few minutes to help this person load up their stuff. And I want to go back to a pre-COVID or COVID standard. Give us our space in the shopping aisle lines, please.
Yes.
There's no rush, And then even like the girl said, the cashier said, "I'm sorry about your." I sort of did drop the line. I go, I'm in no rush. It was like a Tuesday in the summer when I'm off. I'm like, I'm totally fine. I go, now the lady behind me, I don't know, but again, people, are you with me on this? Can we go back to having, it doesn't have to be the 6 feet. Okay, I get it. You don't need to have like, you're at the line and the next person's like back in the aisles, but give us some breathing room. All right. Yeah. You're not making things go any faster. That is my hot mic take to the week. Let's go back to that. And if we go back to the waiting rooms and being called in, totally on board with that too.
Well, maybe if she's a listener, she'll write in and apologize for her.
She's probably paying with a check too. I have a feeling. All right. Not much in sports action. I saw that Miguel Cabrera got thrown out of the game last night.
Yeah, I was reading, Mike, and I don't know what happened, but he's the victim, of course. So poor Miguel. But I will
still getting paid.
You say not much sports. For the NBA fan, this next few days is maybe the most fun of the year because there's so much. NBA does a good job with free agency. Starts tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Friday. It starts, when the listener is listening, 6 o'clock the day of. I'm already on Twitter looking for Pistons trades and movement. So it is for me, for the NBA fan, for the Piston fan, it's maybe, especially with how bad the Pistons have been the last decade and a half, this is the most exciting couple of days of the year.
Well, there was the NHL draft, I think, was last night.
Yeah.
Not that I don't know if anyone noticed. I saw.
Well, I was reading the reviews. NHL, not even ripping on hockey or anything. It's just you're not as attached to the players because college hockey obviously isn't as big. But it doesn't seem like people were very happy with the Red Wings' first pick there, the number 9 pick overall.
Well, like I don't know how, I can't even speak on it. I don't know who the Penguins pick, I think which was like in the mid-teens, I think, because they just missed the playoffs. They were, of course, the media there, they're like saying this, who knows? I mean, these guys, who knows what these guys, I looked at like where he played. It sounded like it was like a bar league team or something. I don't even know. It wasn't even a college. So, but other than that, I mean, like I said, these are the slow days. It's Major League Baseball. There was a perfect game last night.
Yeah.
Ken Sikora, Major League first perfect game in a long time was for a New York Yankee pitcher. I didn't
24th in history was something like that. 25th.
Yeah, and it had been a while, right?
Yeah, only the 4th in Yankees lore, which is obviously the Yankees being the best franchise in baseball. Only the 4th one in their history. But yeah, maybe the listener can correct us on how many there have been. Galarraga obviously got his doesn't have
his ripped away and stolen. So yeah, so it is. I think I also saw too. We hinted. I think it looks like Hard Knocks might be the New York Jets. That's what's
Yeah, it looks.
people
I
all
don't
of a
know if that's
sudden
confirmed, but yeah,
people are all of a sudden really. I'm looking at like these off-season schedule like predictions of records, and all of a sudden I don't the, even though their draft grades I don't think were the greatest. Everyone's really high on the Jets now all of a sudden. I guess just because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I'm sort of torn on this one in a sense that he's older now, and he really wasn't that great last year, but it's got to be a step up from what they had a year ago, and the Jets were pretty competitive, so maybe that's warranted. I don't know.
I just think it's a tough. It's like the AFC North. It's a very tough
Yeah.
conference, a tough division. I mean, the Dolphins are very good. People are high on them too. You have the Bills that are not going anywhere, and even the Patriots at their average are still not. They're not an awful football team. So I
No,
don't
and
know
they got rid
where
of Coach Matt Patricia, and Kelly
that'll probably
Warren's
make them better. So.
Kelly Warren's biggest inspiration in his job. So yeah.
Well, we're coming up. It's 4th of July weekend, right? I guess in a way, right? The 4th is on Tuesday. Would this be considered the 4th of July
It
weekend?
is.
So, big fireworks weekend. I'm sure everyone's. Uh, I hope nobody loses a limb or anything. I don't want any of you fireworks people complaining about gas prices.
Why are we,
I don't want to hear it.
why are we laughing about this? People
I,
losing limbs.
I don't know who's that football player. I mean, he
Uh,
lost his
Pierre
Paul.
Pierre
Dave
Paul.
Rexroth
Yeah.
lost an eye. Weatherman for Channel 7.
Yeah. Why? All right. Okay.
We're just stating.
Just reporting on it. Yes.
Hey, the emergency room needs business too. Be safe out there. Again, enjoy the 4th. Happy birthday to America. We will have an episode next week, right? We're not traveling anywhere for the 4th. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.